Hey there, this is Dave from the Author's Reserve, and today we're going to be looking at this, the smallest pen in my collection. This is the Gravitas Dinky. So let's have a look. First of all, a little bit about the company. The company is Gravitas, as I mentioned. It's based in Ireland, run by a fellow named Ben Walsh, and he's a former engineer, or I don't know if you can ever be a former engineer, once an engineer, always an engineer. And at some point he got into building fountain pens using all of his engineering know-how. And so there are a lot of great examples of that. Gravitas is only available through PenVenture, pen-venture.com, based in Romania, but don't let that scare you off, because let me explain. I purchased this pen on Monday morning, early Monday morning, and today is Thursday and it's already in my hand. And that is impressive. But what makes it even more impressive is that between Monday and Thursday was Christmas. So that's how fast Emmy at PenVenture and his team are able to fulfill and deliver to the United States. So I'm just over the moon impressed by them. All right, so let's get into the pen itself. Definitely a very small pen, and let's go ahead and do a measurement here. Lengthwise, it's 90 millimeters, and here at the base of the main body, it is about 11 millimeters. However, let's compare that to the next size up that Gravitas makes, and that is the pocket. Now, you've seen me give away 2 of these pockets and 1 of the Dinky, but I didn't really do a comparison before. So the pocket is 105 millimeters wide, and at the narrow point, or the widest point of the body, which is right below the cap, it is 13 millimeters. So you have an idea of the size comparison here. One thing that the pocket has that the Dinky doesn't have is this shaved off area here, which helps prevent it from rolling. The Dinky does roll. Where it gets interesting is when we post these. So let's take a look at when we post the pocket. Now it's all obviously looking like a very thick pen or long pen there. And when we post the Dinky, the size comparison starts to narrow. They seem to be very close in length once they're posted. The Dinky definitely has a narrower girth than the pocket, and it's also much lighter, but as far as the length is concerned, they're about the same. So let's talk about the pen. First of all, the colorway here is called Crystalized Titanium, and you can definitely tell why. This is in fact titanium, and I have never seen titanium that looks like this before, so I'm kind of interested to find out how they're able to make it like this. It's sort of reminiscent close-up of galvanized steel, which I think also has a really beautiful texture to it, visual texture, chatoyance even. At the end of the cap here is the Gravitas logo, which has been etched in. I believe that's laser etching. It's got a kind of a gold color to it, and I'm not sure how that's possible. I know that titanium is in its natural state. It has a slightly yellow tinge to it. So let's talk about the pen in 4 parts. We'll talk about the cap, the body, the grip, and the nib all separately. So let's talk about the cap first. It's got a shallow conical section here, which has been nicely chamfered off to make it feel good in the hand. In fact, the whole pen feels really good in the hand. The point is even slightly rounded off, but it's still very pointy. I believe it is still pointy enough to be used as a way to break like window glass, which I know that they use this exact same shape, and they have a tool that looks very much like this. So it's good for shattering safety glass in an emergency. Inside is a Delrin insert, and that is sort of this pen's secret weapon. It serves 2 big functions. One is to allow it to have such amazing threading. To uncap the pen, it is 1 full turn and then about a 1/4 turn. The threading is just spin on, spin off. When you spin it on, there is a section, there's just like right at the end, at least on my pen, there is a part where it just barely gives a little bit of resistance and then a click sensation, which feels like it's locking into place. I don't know that that was the intention here, but that's what's happening with this pen. In fact, you can hear it. The other thing the liner does is help seal off the nib from the outside air, and it should be able to keep it wet quite a long time. I'm interested to try this in a torture test where I take it up into a plane and see how well it handles at altitude. I've had the opportunity to test a lot of pens this last year because I've been doing a lot of flights. I'm also interested in trying to leave this capped for a number of weeks and then trying to write with it to see if it's dried out. But I can't really see myself letting this pen sit for very long. Okay, so that's it for the cap. Now let's talk about the body. The body has also got a really shallow conical section here that is also chamfered as well as rounded off at the tip. There are some threads here, very fine threads. The section here is roughly, I think I already measured this, but we'll do it again, about 10 millimeters. If you unscrew the body, you'll find that this is a cartridge converter. It doesn't come with either, so you need to supply your own. There's not much more to talk about this, except for within relation to the grip. The grip has a O-ring here, and that's making me wonder if this could be used as an eyedropper filler. I don't know that it can, and if anybody knows that's watching this, please put it in the comments section because I'd be interested to find out. I'll be hunting that information out myself as well. The thing that concerns me about using this as an eyedropper filler is that it would be adding ink to bare metal, and that's not always a really great recipe. It can cause corrosion. It could also affect the ink, and if it affects the ink, then the ink could then gunk up the feed or the nib itself. So I'm interested to know more about that. Titanium is a very resistant metal, but I just don't know if that's possible with this. Okay, so let's talk about the grip. The grip has this texture to it, which are very fine grooves that have been carved into the side here. And that will help improve the grip of the grip section, which is, its main purpose. The downside for that is that it tends to hold onto ink when you fill it. If you go too far in past the nib and into the grip section, then you pull it out, it's actually holding plenty of ink, much like a glass dip pen holds onto ink in its grooves. So that is a little bit concerning. You have to be especially careful when you're filling the pen. Okay, so let's talk about the nib. The nib is a number 5 or maybe a 5.5, I'm not really sure. It feels like it's smaller than a 6. It has the Gravitas logo engraved here, a breather hole and a slit. This particular one is a fine, and we'll do a writing test with it here in a moment, and it appears to be a plastic feed, ABS plastic, by the sheen on it. Okay, so let's go ahead and ink this up, and then we'll do a writing test. As I mentioned, this is a cartridge converter, and it doesn't come with either. I'm going to use a Kaweco converter. This is one that is designed for the sport. It's very small, as you can tell. And one of the problems with this is that we'll insert it in here, then we'll draw ink into the converter. But when we put the body back on, you'll notice that the body is much shorter than the plunger here. So what happens is we would be forcing ink back out of the nib here. And so we're going to want to keep the nib over the ink jar when we put the cap back on. But once we do that, we don't have that much ink left in the converter, unfortunately. So this is a problem. It would be better if we use one of the newer Kaweco converters that have a collapsible or folding plunger here. They are about the same size here, but they fold in the middle, and that would allow it to go about there, which would allow for more space. And that would allow it to hold more ink. But this is all we've got to work with, so let's do that. All right, the ink we're going to be using today is Caran d'Ache Infinite Gray, which I purchased from Pen Venture. Specifically for this pen, I wanted a gray pen to go with the gray body, and I don't have any pen or grays that are roughly this color. I do have a couple, but I wanted to try something new. Caran d'Ache is like beautiful, beautiful jars. I just think that these are great. Not only are they beautiful, but they're also very functional with them leaning over. They're like begging to accept your nib. Another thing is, and I hope Lamy is listening, this cap is amazing. It's not plastic. This is metal. It's like everything they've done is just beautiful. All right, so let's stick this in here and fill it up. I'm going to show you perhaps if we need to. One other step. Okay, so I tried filling the converter 3 times, and on this 3rd time I got enough ink that I feel comfortable with it. Unfortunately, as you know, as I put the body back on, it's going to go down to about halfway, and that'll leave basically a big bubble taking up most of the room. So what I want to do now is to move that bubble to the top of the pen, the top of the converter, by tapping on it and keeping it at an angle, not straight up and down, but at an angle, so it can rise to the top. Now all the ink is down here and the bubble is up closer to the end of the nib. So let's go ahead and put the top back on, or the body back on, with the nib over the jar. Got a little bit of ink on myself. Okay. And here's the problem with it holding on to the ink, the grip, those grooves in the grip holding on to the ink. You want it to hold on to the hand, but not the ink, and that's a tricky proposition for somebody who's designing a pen. Okay, so this is ready to write. Let's open it up and see how much ink we got in there. Okay, so there we go. Could be a little more, right? That's, if this was eyedropper compatible, then I wouldn't have any problem with the ink volume on this. Okay, so let's do a writing test. I'm using Maraman 70 GSM paper here. So we're not just testing the pen, we're also testing this ink. And it is a Gravitas Dinky in Crystalized Titanium. The ink we're using is Caran d'Ache, and it is called Infinite Gray with an E. So it's writing very nicely. I feel like this is beyond fine though, and moving into the extra fine realm here. So let's try some line width variation, not expecting much. Little more ink deposit on the vertical. Not much difference in the light, medium, or heavy strokes there. Light, medium, heavy. Definitely see some in the diagonals, the northwest to southeast diagonals. Let's do some S-curves. Wow, it really does write fine when you take the pressure off of the pen. I'm feeling like this is a very dry ink. Well, it doesn't look like it, but it feels like it. Or maybe it's the pen, I'm not sure. Okay, so I made my characters about half of the normal height I would normally make them. I think that makes more sense with this fine to extra fine nib. And in keeping with everything small about this pen, it also makes a little bit of sense there. I'm noticing as the Caran d'Ache Infinite Gray dries, it's drying to a lighter color, which is great because that's what I was going for when I chose this ink for this pen. Okay, so let's talk about the final impressions of the Gravitas Dinky. Let me preface this by saying I paid for this out of my own pocket. That means nobody's paying me to say this, and these are my own opinions. The Gravitas Dinky, in my opinion, could be the ultimate EDC fountain pen. And the reason I say that is because it's small, it's immensely durable, it's light, and it is also an excellent writer. It has a lot of flexibility in the way you can write with it, with very, very thin lines to almost medium width. This is a pen that retails for 220 euros or about 240 US dollars. This is not a cheap pen. This is an investment in a tool. If you are somebody who's going to actually use a pocket fountain pen, then this could be the pen for you. If all you need is a very small pen to occasionally jot things down, there are a lot of less expensive options. But if you are somebody who is really into high quality tools, this is a great option. Having said that, the Gravitas Dinky is also available in other materials, which are also extremely durable and very beautiful to look at. But are less expensive than this one. For instance, there's an Ultim version, which is 90 euros or about $98 US, somewhere in there. If there's any things that I could change about this pen, there are only two that I can think of. One is the ink volume. This is really a small amount, and we're using a small converter, and that converter is only half in size, so it would make more sense to use a cartridge. So you can use those half-size cartridges that they have for the Kavico Sports. The converter with the fold-down plunger, that might also help improve it. But if this could be an eyedropper filled pen, then I'll change my mind about all of that, because that will be plenty of ink for this, and I won't wind up filling it about every day. The second thing I might consider changing are these grooves in the grip section. To me, these are a little too aggressive, and maybe something that's finer would be better suited for this pen. Something that is not as deep and are closer together, I think would be just a tad bit better and probably hold on to ink a little bit less. Okay, so I have to interrupt the video here. I've received some more information, and one correction and some additional new data. And the first one is a correction, and that is that this is actually a number 6 size nib. I think earlier I said it was a number 5 or 5.5, and it is a 6. In fact, it's a Yovo compatible nib unit, so if you wanted to swap this out with another one, you could. So that's kind of an interesting piece of information. Second of all, Emiot Pen Venture has informed me that this is in fact eyedropper compatible. So I thought we would go ahead and give that a shot and see how well that works. So we'll go ahead and continue to use this Caran d'Ache Infinite Gray. Okay, and so I'm going to be using this to hold the body of the pen. This is just a thing I 3D printed to hold my Copic pens, which are alcohol pens. So you usually have like a ton of colors, so you need a way to arrange them. Open up the pen here, pull out the converter, the very tiny converter, and we'll just drop that in there. And then to fill it, I have broken my glass eyedropper, so we're going to use this little guy. This is made by Asvine, and you can get I don't know, it's like $5 for $7 or something like that. It's just so inexpensive. And I have found an infinite number of uses for this little guy. Originally, I got these for putting drops of ink onto my ink swatches, and then I'd move the ink around with a stylus. Right to the top. Okay, that's pretty close to the top. And grab the grip section here. And when I'm screwing metal into metal, I usually turn it the opposite direction until I feel it seat, and then I spin it. And it looks like maybe I kind of overfilled it a little bit there. I hope that's the case. Let's clean this off. There we go. All right, one more there. Okay, let's give it a test. Wow, so that definitely works. It's not leaking. I guess that solves two problems then. One is the low ink volume with the tiny converter and only half full. That was a problem, and now it's going to be a lot of volume. That's one problem solved. And the second problem is the grooves. I expected these grooves to hold onto ink when you were filling it, but since you don't need to dip the nib and grip section into a bottle of ink, then that's not going to be an issue. So I guess my only two issues with this pen have been solved. So if I don't have any issues with this pen, is this the ultimate EDC fountain pen? Quite possibly. All right, back to the video. This pen is so light and so small that it's easy to throw into a pocket and forget. So I would be very cautious about that. You don't want to put these in your trousers and then throw your trousers into the washing machine and wash your pen, although I do believe this pen would survive. Overall, I am really impressed with this pen, and I'm looking forward to using it a lot. Thanks for watching, and if you don't mind, please subscribe, like the video, and put a comment down below. There's no giveaway with this video because I have, I think, 4 other pen giveaways going right now, and it's just getting too hard to track them all. But I will be giving away more towards the end of the year here, and also, again, starting in January. Thanks for watching. Keep writing.